welcome back to Good Vibras. What is up? How are you guys? I hope you guys are all doing well, staying focused on your goals, hustling out here, making moves. It is a beautiful Tuesday here in Florida, yet again, sunny as always, and the temperature is just getting hotter and hotter, and I'm loving it. I really do love the heat. It's funny because a lot of people ask me, oh, would you go back to Jersey? Do you miss the cold? I'm like, nope. I love the sun. I love the heat. It is beautiful. So I took a week off from the podcast. Again, life just be happening sometimes. Gotta rest. Listen to your body. So I rested. And the reason why I took an off week was because I had a flare-up. So as some of you guys know, I was recently diagnosed with lupus. I've mentioned it in previous podcast episodes. But today's episode, I'm going to be going into detail about my whole COVID-19 experience and the lupus diagnosis and all that stuff. I've gotten a lot of DMs from you guys asking like what my symptoms were when I had COVID, what's been happening since post-COVID, since my diagnosis and all that stuff. So today I will be sharing with you guys all of that good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. So lupus is an autoimmune disease that is constantly attacking your organs, your tissues, your body, like just your entire body, constantly attacking it. And what they think is they're saying that my body created antibodies for COVID. Like I tested positive for that, but it went into, I think it was like called autoantibodies or something like that. And they were saying how my body went into like overdrive, so it kept like producing antibodies, and then it just like went into overload, and now my body thinks that I still have the virus in me and just has constantly been attacking, and it never stopped. And that's what they're thinking triggered lupus, and that's basically what lupus is. So crazy, as I'm recording this, and I just realized this, a year ago I actually had COVID. So it's like a 1 year COVID anniversary. So terrible. And that is just crazy to think that this virus is still here. It's been here probably since, they're saying even maybe October, November 2019. Who knows? But yes, it has been a year since I had COVID. A lot has changed in my life since I had COVID. I just remember being at work, and we were seeing it all in the news. This was back in like January. I would say in January. I remember my night shift crew and I were watching on the news, you know, how China has this outbreak. There's this virus going around in all the other countries. And we're like, wow, that's crazy. You know, then we're just resuming our normal lives, you know, just doing our own thing. And then in March is when New Jersey had the shutdown or lockdown. And we're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, you always see stuff on the news and then you're like, oh, okay, like it's news. Nothing's happening in my life. Like we're solid, like, you know. And then all of a sudden, you know, we got hit with the pandemic as well. And everyone was, it was definitely a chaotic, crazy time. And it still is. I mean, COVID's still here. It hasn't gone anywhere. And times are still tough. And this virus has really impacted a lot of people in many different ways. So at our facility, it was around May, I would say, we started seeing, like, a lot of our staff started testing positive for COVID. But the crazy thing is none of the kids were. Thank God. You know, I love my kids so much. My biggest concern was that the kids would get it. I was like, I'd rather get it than these kids. I don't want them to get it. And in May, that's when a lot of people were testing positive at our job. And I felt fine. Like, I didn't have any symptoms at first. It was crazy. Like, I told my parents, I was like, you know, because I still lived at home at the time, and I was telling my parents, you know, there's an outbreak, and they were like, please get tested for us, please. And I'm like, absolutely. So I went to go get a COVID test at CVS. They were doing them for free. They still are, by the way. So I went to go get a COVID test, and, you know, I felt fine. I'm taking the test, doing the swab or whatever. Didn't bother me at all. And I was like, all right, like, just going to work, doing my thing. And then the results they're a little bit delayed. So my results didn't come till like 4 days after I took the test. So I go to work. I'm feeling fine. I took my test on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And then I worked Friday, and I was actually off that weekend. I was supposed to go back to work the Sunday night. So It's the weekend, I'm vibing. Friday, I'm at work, and I don't know if I was getting paranoid, but I wasn't. But at the time, I thought, oh, maybe I'm just being paranoid. I noticed, like, my sense of smell wasn't as strong, but it wasn't something obvious. Like, I was like, oh, that's weird. And I was a little congested. So I was like, oh, it's allergy season. Like, whatever. It's probably just allergies or whatnot. And then, but I was like, that's still weird. I was like, oh, whatever. Then I was fine. Saturday, I was fine. And then Sunday, and it's crazy how quickly it happened. Sunday, my parents had like a little, like, mini barbecue. They made burgers and all that good stuff. And I remember I went to take a bite out of my burger and I could not taste anything. It was the weirdest thing ever. Like, I had put ketchup, mustard, like all the condiments, everything. And I tasted absolutely nothing. And I was like, what is going on? I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I think I probably have COVID. I'm like, there's no way I don't. I was like, oh, maybe I just have like a really bad sinus infection. Now, mind you, I never, ever get sick. Thank God I've had such a great immune system. I've never been sick. Just your occasional, like, little sniffles here and there, but nothing ever crazy. So this was weird to me because I'm like, okay, well, a sinus infection, that's weird because I don't get sick. I'm like, oh my God, but what if it's COVID? Like, it was just weird. So then, sure enough, that night, I got my test results, and I logged in, and I saw my results, and I tested positive for COVID. Then I remember I broke down crying because my first thought was, oh my God, my kids at work, the patients I had, my family. I was just thinking about everyone that I had seen, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was freaking out. So it was a lot to take in because I wasn't even really nervous for, like, what was going to happen to me. I was just so nervous and paranoid for my patients, my kid, my parents, my family. Like, I was just worried for everyone. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to get anyone sick. So I did quarantine for 14 days. I was isolated in my room for 14 days. And shout out to my mom and my brother who were taking care of my father and I, which my dad also tested positive. So he definitely got that from me. And I remember hearing him cough, and oh my gosh, it broke my heart. I was like, I can't believe it. Like, I gave my dad COVID. Like, it was tough. Like, I felt so bad. And we were both separated. He was downstairs in the spare room. I was upstairs in my room. And my brother and my mom, they cooked for us. They disinfected everything. Like, we had a whole routine, and we were in our rooms for literally 14 days. So my symptoms, I couldn't taste or smell for 2 weeks. That was the weirdest thing ever. I honestly thought I was never going to get it back. I can't even explain to you, like, not being able to taste and smell. It's funny, like, the things you take for granted, and then once you don't have it, you're like, oh my gosh, like, the little things are the big things. Like, not being able to taste or smell, I couldn't enjoy my meals. It was weird. It was honestly scary. Like, I was convinced that, like, it wasn't going to come back. And I remember I had my mom, she's so amazing. She literally made me the same foods every day. I told her, I said, just make me the same meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was like, I don't even care. Like, I just want to make sure I don't lose weight because I was working out at the time and I gained good weight. And obviously, not being able to taste or smell, you lose your appetite because you can't even enjoy your food. So I was, like, committed to not losing weight. I was like, just make me this every day. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm going to eat it. And what I would do was I would, like, watch a TV show and distract myself while eating so I could just, like, eat without even realizing and just watch my show. Like, just doing it like if it was a homework assignment, like, okay, time to eat, literally shoving food in my mouth, can't taste it, can't smell it, not even looking at the food, I'm just shoving it in my mouth to make sure I'm getting all my nutrients. My mom, she was so cute. She was making immunity drinks. Like, she was making cayenne and all that stuff, and honestly I would not drink that normally, but because I couldn't taste or smell anyway, it didn't even matter. I was like, sure, I'll drink it. So yeah, I was in isolation for 14 days. I had chest tightness for 3 days. That was the weirdest thing ever. I remember, like, I couldn't sleep on my back, like, and it was only for the first 3 days, and it was a weird feeling. Like, it was super, super tight in my chest. Like, sometimes it felt like it was hard to breathe. it was weird. And I remember I couldn't really sleep well those 3 nights. Like, I had to like elevate myself like 30 degrees. I couldn't sleep on my back. Like, I just couldn't find a comfortable spot to sleep in, but I had to sleep with like a bunch of pillows under my head. Like, it was super weird. But that was it. That was only for 3 days. And then I just couldn't taste or smell. So honestly, during my 14 days of isolation, I was still doing my home workouts in my room. I was reading, I was relaxing. I was, my friends were FaceTiming me. We were still in a lockdown, so it's not like anyone could go out and do stuff anyway. So my friends are FaceTiming me. We're all talking about like, just like what we're all going through, this whole quarantine, restaurants, gyms were still shut down. So just like trying to process everything. And I was making sure that I was, praying and staying positive and, trying to see like, okay, what's the outcome of this? Like, what will be the lesson? What is God trying to teach me? And in a way, it sounds crazy, but being in isolation for 14 days, I was able to really catch up on rest, which if you work night shift, you know how that is. Like, you're always playing catch up. You never feel fully rested. So I was able to rest, and I was able to just like take some time for me, heal. And I really learned the importance of just taking care of my body and listening to my body and just providing it with the proper nutrients, feeding my mind, body, and soul. Like, that's what those 14 days, that's what I did with those 14 days. That's how I utilized it. And I came out of my quarantine refreshed for sure. So once my 14 days were up, I went straight back to work. And I can honestly say, like, since COVID, like, I never felt the same. Like, it was weird. Like, I was still going about my life normally, but I just felt something was off with my body, like inside. Like, I just didn't feel 100% myself. But I was like, all right, like, just keep moving or whatever. Like, I didn't really pay too much attention to it. And I remember there were some days, like, when I was at work or even just doing nothing, like, literally just sitting down, where that chest tightness would come back, and it would feel so weird. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, that's so random. Like, I would literally have to stop and catch my breath, like, and do like sternal rubs, like just rub my chest because it hurt. I was like, ow, like, where is this coming from? And it wasn't consistent. It was very sporadic. So I never knew when it was going to come. Like, it would just happen randomly. And then I also noticed, at the time I was training with my good friend, and we went to the track and we're working out. And my heart rate, I remember it was like 200 something. Like, the Apple Watch was reading 200 something. I'm like, this is so weird. Like, this isn't like me. And I literally couldn't run for too long. Like, I'd have to stop and I would feel like a sharp pain in my chest. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'd be like, sorry, like, I need to catch my breath. Like, I'm in a lot of pain. Like, I can't move for a second. Like, it was weird. So I felt very tired, and I just couldn't do things like I normally was able to prior to COVID. But I was like, all right, like, whatever. Like, I just got sick a month ago. Like, maybe my body's just really taking time to heal. So I was like I wasn't freaking out. I was just like, okay, maybe my body's still healing. And plus, on the news, I was hearing so many different cases and like people's experiences and all that. So I was like, all right, like, everyone's cases are different. Like, there's really no consistency. So maybe my body's just taking a little bit longer to heal, whatever. Like, I really didn't know, but I was just like, I should be fine. Come July, and this is when I started to notice some little things here and there. So towards the end of July, I remember I went to the beach with my best friend, came back, and I was showering. And obviously you lose like 100 strands of hair a day, they say. But I remember I'm in the shower washing my hair, and so much hair is coming out. Like, I'm literally washing my hair and combing through with my fingers. And when I tell you, like, they were all strands. It wasn't patches or chunks, but the amount of strands, like, I literally was just pulling strands the entire time in the shower, like, constantly. Like, it didn't matter how many times I went through, and even if I pulled a big clump of strands, it was just constant strands were falling out. And I remember I was like, whoa, like, this is not normal. Like, I'm losing a lot of hair. I was like, I looked on the tub floor, and I'm like, oh my God, like, there was a lot of hair. It freaked me out. And I was like, okay, that's really weird. And I was like, whatever, maybe I'm just losing a lot of hair today. Like I said, I'm used to losing a lot of hair to begin with, because that's just what your body does normally. But I lost a lot of hair. It wasn't just that one time. It was every time I washed my hair, or even just walking throughout the day, some random pieces would fall out. And till this day, I still lose a lot of hair. And some days are worse than others. But if I could show you guys like pictures, I have pictures of like the amount of hair I lost just by washing my hair and like taking it out of the drain. And then I have a separate pile of when I would brush my hair 5 minutes after I got out of the shower, and the amount of hair, like I don't even know. And it's funny because people are like, you have such thick hair, you can't even tell. Honestly, I do not know how I'm not bald yet, because I'm not even exaggerating, like the hair loss is ridiculous. So that started in July, and that freaked me out. I was like, something is not right. I remember I was showing my parents, I was crying. I'm like, my hair, something's wrong. They're like, sweetie, you're fine. Like, you look fine. And I was like, no, something is wrong. I'm losing hair. This is not normal. So I dealt with that, still dealing with that. But that happened towards the end of July. And then I actually went to the heart doctor in September. Before I had moved to Florida, I wanted to get all my checkups done because I still was having the high heart rate, the chest pains and all of that. So I went to the cardiologist. They did a stress test. They did all the tests, and everything came back normal. Everything was fine. There was no problems. So I felt relieved because I was like, okay, maybe everything will be fine. Maybe this is just like lingering effects, like they call it the long haulers of COVID. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm just experiencing that. Like, I'll be okay. This is temporary. My heart's fine. So I'm good. Nothing to worry about. So then it's the beginning of October. I'm packing, getting ready to move to Florida. And out of nowhere, my joints, my wrists and my fingers were killing me. And I was like, oh, carpal tunnel maybe? Like, whatever. Like, this has never happened to me before. It hurt so bad, you guys, and it was the worst timing too, because I was moving to Florida literally the next few days. I couldn't grab anything. I couldn't even lift anything. It was so sensitive. So I got, the braces, the wrist braces you can get at Walgreens or whatever. And I was walking around the house with braces all day, and everyone was laughing. They're like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I cannot believe the timing like this would happen to me right before I move. My wrist started acting up, and it was cold in Jersey. So I was like, weird, like maybe the cold triggered it or whatever. And then once I moved down to Florida, once I came to Florida, the pain went away. I was like, oh, cool. Maybe it was just the cold weather. Like, the heat feels really good now. My bones feel fine. So it was really inconsistent pain. It was really weird. Like, my wrists and fingers were hurting, and then they were fine. Then in November, my knees started to act up. Like, I literally couldn't walk, and I have a pretty good pain tolerance. Like, this pain was so excruciating. Like, I think about it now. I could not walk. Like, I actually could not walk. I couldn't like bend my legs. I couldn't bend it, and I couldn't keep it straight. And my apartment, I'm on the second floor. I couldn't even walk down those stairs. Like, it was terrible, and it freaked me out because I'm like, what is going on? Like, now my knees randomly started acting up, and it wasn't like I did anything, like I wasn't working out like crazy. So I was like, I literally have done nothing. Why are all of a sudden my knees acting up? So I got knee braces, did that whole thing, and I was like, all right, maybe I just gotta wear a knee brace. I'm like, man, I'm 24 and I'm already having all these joint problems. Like, what is going on? And again, it was very inconsistent. I remember it was just for a few days, and then I woke up the next day, a few days later, and my knees were perfectly fine. Didn't have to wear the braces. I'm walking, running, doing whatever, working out. And I was like, okay, maybe it was just a weird flare-up. Like, okay, whatever, moving right along. And then come December, I would say towards the end of December, I started noticing now I was getting, like, my pain was becoming, it was more often. So it was my knees again, and it was my fingers and my wrists, and even my feet a little bit. And I'm like, okay, so now it's my feet. Now we're adding that to the list. And it was weird. Again, it was still inconsistent, but it was more frequent. I would say November, I maybe had like 2 episodes where I had the beginning of the month and the end of the month for a few days where I had pain, and that was it. December, it was almost like an every other day type thing. Like, it was happening more often. But the pain was still, it wasn't really severe. It was enough where I could still do like my activities of daily living and all of that, but the pain was there. And now my feet were added to the list. So I was like, okay, that's really weird. But again, still doing my thing. I had stopped working out, which I was so frustrated about, but I was like, I need to just maybe take a break. Like, maybe my bones, or I don't know, something's going on. Like, let me just take a break. Maybe they're really sensitive or whatever. come January of this year, and the pain was all the time, everywhere. Now it was like every joint. My feet were completely inflamed. They were red. They were sensitive to touch. I couldn't even walk on my heels. Like, it almost felt like plantar fasciitis. Like, my heels were hurt. Like, it felt like someone pulled a muscle, but it hurt so bad. I couldn't even step on my toes. Like, the pain was so bad. I couldn't even wiggle my toes. It hurt to even like touch the floor with my feet. Like, that's how sensitive my feet were. Radiated up to my ankles. My ankles were swollen. My legs themselves were not swollen. However, my knees were super swollen, sensitive to touch, hurt really bad. My hips started to hurt. My lower back, and these are all joint areas. My lower back started hurting. My fingers were inflamed. I had like nodules, like little swollen bumps on my knuckles. My wrists were hurting. My elbows were hurting. My shoulders were hurting, like where your arm and your clavicle meet, like that area. That was killing me. Even my head, it just felt like heavy, and I had a headache all the time. Like, I was like, something is wrong. Like, now my entire body's being affected. And I kept taking a leave because I was like, oh, whatever. Like, I got to go to work. I was going to work limping. I was in so much pain. Some days I couldn't even like use my hands. It was really hard, but I was like, no, it's okay. Like, I got this. Like, I got to work. I got to make money. I got to pay my bills. And then it literally took me not being able to get out of my bed. Not even, like, I could not physically move. And I told my roommate, I was like, I need to go to the ER. Something's wrong. Like, I had to reach that point to then be like, okay, I should probably get checked out. I go to the ER. They do a bunch of blood work. They have no idea what's going on with me. They're like, it could be inflammation. I don't know. Like, you need to see a rheumatologist. So I was like, okay. Like, they put me out of work for a week, and they gave me a steroid. They gave me prednisone, which prednisone is terrible for you. Really not a good drug, but it really helps get rid of that inflammation. So they put me on the steroid for a week. I went to see a doctor, and I remember like a regular primary doctor, just so I can get a referral to see a rheumatologist. And I see the doctor, and his medical assistant, who did my vital signs and everything, she's like asking my age, what are my symptoms, why am I here? And she's looking at me, she's like, how old are you? I was like, I'm 24. She's like, really? And she's like, and you're experiencing all this? I'm like, yeah. She goes, okay. She literally looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, okay. I heard her go out into the hallway, and I heard her tell a doctor, you got an interesting patient here, 24, and is presenting with such and such symptoms. I don't know, seems pretty crazy. And I'm like rolling my eyes in the room. I'm like, ugh, like, do people think I'm lying? Like, I'm serious, like something's wrong. So the doctor comes in, and I tell him, hey, I don't know what's going on. I got COVID in May of 2020, after I got hair loss in July. Like, I was just throwing at him like all the things that I had documented, like, okay, the hair loss, joint pain, the inconsistency, I had COVID, blah, blah, blah. So just so he can get like a little background history or whatever. And he's looking at me like, huh, interesting. And I was like, and this is what I'm presenting with today. Like, I'm swollen every joint. And he saw it. He's like, you're very swollen. I was like, yeah, my feet are killing me. My heels hurt. I can barely walk. I can't even like open lids. I can't do simple tasks like lift my arm to brush my teeth. Like, it was literally affecting my entire life. Like, I could not do basic tasks. So he's like, okay, well, we'll get you blood work done, and then we'll see how you are in a month. And I was like, no, doctor, I can't wait a month. I need to see a rheumatologist now. I need to see a specialist. Something's wrong. I can't walk. And he's like, oh, true, you're right. I was like, bruh, like, I can't afford to wait another month. Like, something is wrong. So thank God I got to see a specialist. I cannot even believe they ran so many tests, but they literally drew up like 10 tubes of blood and tested for everything, like every autoimmune disease, because the doctor was like, seems like it might be an autoimmune thing. And I was like, oh my God, no. Like, that freaked me out, because I was like, I've never been sick. Like, I can't imagine, like, if I have an autoimmune disease, like, what's gonna happen? Like, I started freaking out, and then I was like, all right, you know what? there's nothing I can do right now except wait for my test results and then go from there. And I was like, I got to trust the process. I got to trust God. Like, whatever happens is meant to happen. And I just need to, trust his plan and have faith that everything will be okay regardless of what the outcome is. So I got my blood work done. And I'm still in pain. I'm still working. And I'm just popping to leave like every 4 hours just to kind of minimize the pain. Because it would help somewhat, but not completely. But it was enough where I can still do my job. And then beginning of March, the doctor calls me and she's like, okay, we got your test results. We want you to come in. So I go into the office and she tells me that I have lupus. And I remember I was like, wait, what? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, we did a bunch of tests. We checked for rheumatoid arthritis, going down the list of all the autoimmune diseases, Lyme disease, all that. She goes, and you tested positive multiple times for lupus. And I was like, I froze. I literally was just like, oh my God. And I like low-key wanted to cry and just hug my mom and my dad, and all my family's in Jersey, so I was just there by myself. And she told me, and I was just like, okay. And she's like, so I was like, so lupus, I learned about it in nursing school, but not enough, I didn't know too much about it. I was like, but lupus, I thought you get the butterfly rash. Like, I don't have that. She goes, so not everyone presents the same with lupus. Lupus has so many different signs and symptoms. Everyone presents differently. She goes, but it seems like your lupus might have been triggered by COVID. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. And it's crazy because I have read articles that stated, COVID is triggering autoimmune diseases in people, and lupus and RA, rheumatoid arthritis, were the top two. I was like, that's really scary. She's like, but unfortunately, we don't know a lot about this COVID virus, so we can't say that's the reason, but because it's not in your genetics, that's the only thing that makes sense right now. And I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, that hair loss you had in July, she goes, you had lupus already. She goes, you've had it all this time. She's like, all the joint pain, the inconsistency, and it just progressively got worse. She's like, that's all signs of lupus. I was just in shock. Like, I was just trying to process everything, take it all in, take everything. And she was telling me, I couldn't believe it, honestly. Like, that was the last thing I would have ever thought. So, she's telling me, what I'm going to do is we're going to put you on a long-term medication. And then I'm going to put you on a steroid for a month. She said, your lupus level is so high. She goes, I need to bring it down immediately. She goes, you are so inflamed. And right now our goal is to just bring that inflammation down. And I was like, okay. Like, I remember I was just like, okay, yeah. Like, and inside I'm thinking of a million different things. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with my career? What's going to happen with my life? Am I going to be able to have kids? How does this impact my future children? Or, just imagine like a bunch of different thoughts running through my head. Like, I literally was just freaking out inside. I was panicking. And on the outside, I'm just like calm, cool, and collected. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, sure. And I told her, I said, I'm not really one that likes to take meds unless I need to. I was like, I'm really about the holistic approach. Is there any other way that I can approach this? And she goes, well, for right now, because your inflammation is really bad, medication is the necessary approach. And then you can, we'll discuss holistic afterwards and all of that. So in March, so it was March 2nd, I got my diagnosis, and then I was out of work for a whole month because I literally couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything anymore. So she prescribed the medicine for me, and I started taking both of those meds. So one's Plaquenil, which is hydroxychloroquine, and just Prednisone. So during this time, and I thank God for my friends that I have down here, I literally had to be carried from my car upstairs to my apartment. I needed help with my groceries. Nino, my dog, my friends had to help me take care of him, take him outside because I couldn't even go down the stairs. Like, I remember one morning trying to take him downstairs, and he's still a puppy, so he was just darting downstairs, and I had the leash on him, and I almost fell down the stairs because he was pulling me, and I couldn't go as fast as him. Like, my knees were giving out. Like, it was really, really bad. I couldn't open anything. I couldn't do anything. And I don't like asking for help. I like to do things on my own. I'm very independent. Like, I don't like to depend on anyone, and I really had to depend on people. And it was tough for me because, you know, from being able to do everything for yourself and then being able to literally not do anything for yourself, it was tough. It was really tough. There were moments where I was super frustrated. I was angry. I was sad. I wanted to cry. I didn't want to bother anyone. And I would try to do things on my own, and I would just hurt. Like, I remember the day after I got diagnosed, I can't even walk, and I'm like trying to shampoo my rugs. Like, that's just my personality though. Like, I can't stay still, and I always have to be doing something. But with that whole month off, I learned a lot. And like I said, I really do feel like everything you go through in life, you know, it's for a reason, and there's always something you can take from whatever the experience is. So, you know, with this whole lupus diagnosis, I at first I was like, I don't even know what is going on? Like, why is this happening to me? Like, and behind the scenes, which stay tuned for the episodes on this, behind the scenes, I was going through a lot of other things, emotionally. You know, I was involved on and off with someone who, you know, it wasn't helping my health at all. It just emotionally took a toll on me. You know, I was dealing with the fact that I had moved, you know, also dealing with me just trying to figure out who I am, what I want out of life, and then the frustrations of, you know, this disease and how it's affecting my life where I can't perform simple tasks. You know, there was just a lot of different things going on, and a lot of emotions and just a lot happening. And I remember, you know, I was crying. I was like, God, like, what's happening? Like, I came to Florida, you know, to have a new chapter in my life, to have, you know, new opportunities and just everything. And I come to Florida and it's been great, but there's been things happening in between. And now I have a life-changing, you know, thing happen to me. You know, I get diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I was like, God, like, what's the purpose? Like, what? I don't get it. Like, why are you allowing this? What do you want me to learn? And, you know, being off for a month, the meds didn't kick in until like 2 weeks in. So for 2 weeks, I basically couldn't do much. And during those 2 weeks, I was like, okay, you know what? I was able to relax. I remember I was by myself in the apartment, and I was like, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen in my future, but I have peace knowing that God is in control and he allowed this for a reason. And I have to trust him. And this journey is going to be tough. And some days are going to be so bad. And some days are going to be great. And I don't know what's going to happen. But I need to trust that he's with me every step of the way. So I remember it was in that moment where I was like, it's up to me to now make certain choices in my life. Stress is a big trigger for lupus. I notice every time I'm like overwhelmed or like just emotionally, mentally stressed, I get little flare-ups. So sorry if you guys hear the AC. I'm sitting in my car at the Causeway, my favorite place, and it is hot. So if you hear the AC, I'm sorry. But yeah, I remember I was like, I need to remove all stressful things in my life. People, things. I needed to work on my mindset. I was like, it's time to buckle down, Brielle. Like, now your life, your health is a priority. You cannot mess around anymore. And that's what I did. I removed people from my life that were not benefiting me, that were toxic. Oh my gosh, I have to sneeze. Hold on 1 second. Wow, that was not even... Wow, that was a terrible sneeze. I removed all toxic people from my life. I removed just negative, toxic thoughts that I was, you know, constantly telling myself. And I wanted to look at life through a different lens. And I have a bunch of, you know, amazing family and friends that kept in contact with me, that supported me, that were encouraging me, and that helped so much as well. And, you know, I remember I was talking to my aunt and I was venting to her. I was like, you know, I've made a lot of choices that I'm not proud of, but, you know, I want to do better. I want to be better. And this health scare, you know, this whole diagnosis of lupus, I was telling her, I said, it's like a wake-up call for me. Like, hey, like, life is precious. Not every day is guaranteed. Tomorrow's never guaranteed. It's important that you enjoy your life every day, but take care of yourself. Not just take care of yourself mentally, but physically as well. What you put into your body is going to affect your brain. And this I've been learning with lupus, diet is a big thing. Like, what you put in to your body's going to react to that. And I mentioned in a previous podcast, when I eat bad, my body feels it immediately. I'm in pain. My joints hurt. I can't have white breads. I can't have regular bread, really. I can't have all the good, all the bad, good food that I would have before. I've had to cut that out. And that was hard for me because that was a whole lifestyle change. Like, you go from 24 years of eating whatever you want, and now you can't have certain things. So, I had to make those changes. And then I had to buckle down on my diet, change a lot of things. Like I said, I removed anything that was toxic in my life that didn't bring me peace. And then I started incorporating things that did bring me peace. So I was like, okay, you know what? This is what I feel God wants me to do. I really felt like God wanted me to slow down and get my priorities in order and realign myself and just focus on what matters. Because it's very easy to get distracted and lose sight of the goals you have and where you want to be. And that's what was happening to me, because I was like, okay, I gotta work, gotta do this, gotta do that. I was all over the place. And I'm not saying that's the only reason for this. I don't know what God's plan is, but what I took away from the whole month being off and just having this lupus diagnosis was, God wants me to slow down, and God wants me to really appreciate the little things in life and really take care of myself, my mind, my body, and my soul. And to start, reprioritizing things, because my priorities weren't really in order. I was prioritizing certain things that should not have been a priority. And the only way I was able to realize these things is when I was, unable to do anything and be alone with myself and just like reassess, like, what am I focusing on? What do I need to change? Because now that I have an autoimmune disease that I'm going to have for the rest of my life, I need to create a healthy environment for myself. I need to establish healthy relationships with my friends, family, romantic relationships from here on out. My health is important now. Brielle is important. Her health, her mind, body, and soul is important. So now I took a step back and I realized, instead of making choices to please others or make sure they're okay, I was like, no, it's time to make sure, am I okay? Am I happy with this? Am I happy with the choices I'm making? Am I doing this because I want to? So I was able to just reassess a lot of different things. I was able to read more, and I was like, you know what? Like, God needs to be a priority in my life. Like, it's so easy to get distracted, but He's the only one who has, He's there for me all the time, and I need to learn to trust Him and rely on Him, because the moment I slip away from God, my life becomes chaotic. Like, it really does. Like, having God in my life creates a foundation for me, and I feel more grounded. So that's, what I took away with the whole lupus, that whole month, with the lupus diagnosis, and then staying home and healing, and so that whole month off, after the 2 weeks, I was starting to feel better. And then I just started to slowly, gradually, go back to going outside and just appreciating my environment. I spent time with my cousin who came to see me, a few friends. I really just got to enjoy life for a bit, and just, it was reminders from God, hey, you're gonna be okay. You're still gonna be able to live your life. Your life's gonna be different now. There's different things you gotta focus on now, different things you're gonna experience, but appreciate the little things, because they're the big things. And that was the whole month of March. I came out of March feeling refreshed. The medication had kicked in, so I wasn't feeling any pain, and I felt really, really good. It made me cry, because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't remember not feeling pain. It really had been so long since I felt no pain. I was able to just jump out of bed, and it felt great. And then in April, I returned to work, and I've been back at work. And obviously the steroid only lasted a month. So once that wore off, I started feeling little joint pains here and there, but nothing crazy. But, you know, obviously I know like medications really isn't the solution for me. I have been doing a lot of research and still, you know, learning about lupus and doing research on it. And there are ways to kind of minimize the inflammation, and really it's the diet, it's the gut health, it's, you know, consuming the right foods that are going to help my body. And I'm not going to lie, like you know, it's hard. It's something that's very hard for me. I love food, and I love knowing I can eat whatever I want, whenever I want. And with lupus, obviously I can't do that. And there have been days where obviously like I'm like, oh, I just want to have a French fry. I just want to have, you know, bread, you know, and I slip up because I'm human, like whatever. I have bread and my body feels it though. So then I'm like, okay, that's why I shouldn't be eating it. So then I remember like, okay, I don't want to feel like that anymore. So some days it's harder. Some days I give myself like a cheat day, but you know, all the time I would say like not eating bad foods definitely has helped me a lot. Eliminating the stress in my life has helped a lot as well. You know, there's some moments where I do get flare-ups, which like last week, for example, I had a really bad flare-up. My fingers were swollen. My feet started to hurt again. And I was like, oh my God, no. Like, I was like, no, not again. And mind you, I'm still taking one med every day that's supposed to help just suppress the immune system so it's not attacking itself. It's crazy because I know when I'm getting a flare-up, like besides the joint pain, I feel super tired, very fatigued. And like I said, you know, I love to constantly be on the go doing things, and I can't when I get this fatigue. Like it's that strong, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so weak. I feel so tired. I just want to rest. And I'm like, no, but I want to do this. I'm like, I can't. Like I've learned I really need to listen to my body, because when I rest, I feel a little bit better. My body really gets fatigue. Obviously like the joint pains and stuff like that. Even sometimes brain fog. Like it's really weird. Sometimes like I don't remember things like I used to. That's another sign of lupus, which I didn't even know. The hair loss, like I told you guys, it's still a thing. And my hair, so lupus attacks the skin as well. And I thank God I don't have the butterfly rash right now. And I hope I do not get the butterfly rash. But it makes your skin very dry, and your hair very dry as well. So there's not much oil, so that's why my hair is dry. So I'm constantly like, you know, putting oils in it. I've gone through so many different like hair products to try to like contain the frizziness and all that, because my hair is just broken. But I'm using Olaplex. You get it at Sephora. It's actually really, really working well. And my hair is growing long. Like I've been taking biotin, and now I'm taking this pill that they designed for people who have lupus, and it just helps like restore the hair, since that's like a common symptom with lupus. So I've been taking that. You know, I'm taking a bunch of different supplements. Turmeric to help with inflammation. I'm trying to do everything I can. Obviously, like this is going to be a lifelong journey, and I'm still going to have to play. It's like a guessing game. Like I'm going to have to see, okay, what foods are going to create a reaction for my body, which ones are not. Every day it's something new, I feel like. But, you know, I've been doing my best to stay positive and just one day at a time. You know, I'm listening to my body more than ever. So when I do feel tired, I do take the time to rest, even though sometimes I'm like, oh, like I just don't want to lay down. I want to do stuff. I've learned, like, no, when your body's tired, lay down, Brielle, because you can go into a flare-up. Like, do not stress your body out. Do not overwork yourself. Chill and relax. So, you know, one day at a time, trusting God. Some days are better than others. I will say that, like with lupus, it's like you have good days and then you have bad days. And I'm pretty sure that's basic from what I've heard from people. You know, that's very common with autoimmune diseases in general. You know, autoimmune diseases, your body's attacking itself. So like anything can trigger a flare-up. Like, see, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Like, it's different for everyone, but I was reading some things where it's like the sun could cause a flare-up for people with lupus. The wind, they don't know. Lupus is still like a medical mystery. They're still trying to figure out like how it, you know, what causes it. You know, they say a lot of it's environmental, genetics as well, but the environment can trigger lupus. Foods, just a lot of different things. Even like sprays, like body sprays, perfume can be a trigger. It's insane. Like, I pray to God every day that my lupus does not get worse, because it's already tough now. I can't even imagine it being worse. But, you know, I try not to freak myself out too much and read a bunch of articles. You know, I will keep it real with you guys. There are some moments where I've just cried because I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, you know, I'm the type of person, like, if I get news, I'm like, okay, I received the news. I'm going to cry about it, and then I'm going to keep moving forward. And I'll still keep trying to do things normally, even though there's stuff going on. And then it catches up to me, and then I'll have a moment where I just sit and cry. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have an autoimmune disease. Like, I feel it every day. I'm reminded of it. Like, people are like, just, you know, you can't think of it all the time. I'm like, you don't understand. Every day I'm reminded that I have it because of my body. The pain, the joint pain, the inflammation, the fatigue, the chest tightness. You know, that also happened last week too. Like, my chest got so tight, I couldn't even breathe. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. And it was like every day, you know. So I don't know what aggravates it. I know food, maybe allergies, because they're really bad here in Florida. But like I said, some days I'll have a week where I am like vibing, no pain. And then the next week I have pain. And I don't, you know, I'm still trying to find the pattern, find what could be the trigger. But just taking it one day at a time, still trying to enjoy my life, which I'm sure you guys see on Instagram. You know, I don't want this virus to take over, this autoimmune disease to take over my life, or, you know, to make me feel like, well, that's it. This is over. Like, no, it's not over. I still can live a happy and healthy life. I could still have kitties and have a family one day, and it won't get passed down to my kids, because I had to get that confirmed because I was so scared. Because obviously one day, you know, I want to have a family, I want to have kids. And, you know, with this whole thing, I was freaking out because I was like, can I not have kids? But I can. You know, and I'm just, it's crazy because I'm like, I'm 24. Like, why is this happening to me? But you know what? Everything happens for a reason. I've learned so much during this time. And I know, you know, I hope one day it could be a testimony for other people, you know, just to never give up. Like, life is always going to throw trials your way, things you don't even expect, things that are going to get you frustrated. You're going to want to cry. You're going to want to scream. You're going to just want to throw things. Like, you're just going to be frustrated, you know, and you really have to, you know, like I learned, you know, I have to look at life through a different lens, you know, be more positive, not pessimistic. You know, I used to really be a pessimistic person which no one would ever think, but with certain things I was, because of certain experiences I went through, which, you know, I'll touch on in another podcast. But, you know, I've learned to see life through a different lens. Like, you know, be positive. Like, some days are going to be tough, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel the emotions and acknowledge, like, hey, I'm upset, or I'm angry. Like, I can't move today. I'm in pain. This is frustrating. Like, I just want to get better. You know, process your emotions, go through them, but then always have a solution. You know, it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're not alone. You know, surround yourself with positive people. Establish that positive environment. Cultivate those healthy habits, because all of these things really do help with your mindset and just feeling healthy, even if you do have an autoimmune disease, you know. And like my friends, they're so cute too. My friends, they're always like, this doesn't define who you are, Brie. It doesn't define who you are. And I'm like, thank you. Like, you're right. Because sometimes, you know, when it affects your everyday life, you're like, well, I can't do this because I have lupus. You know, like, sometimes you feel like it does define you, you know. And then I realized, no, it doesn't. Like, it's just a little, you know, it's a bump in the road. And I'm going to use this experience to, you know, help myself become my best self, and to just be an example to others, and be a light, and just, you know, show people that regardless of, you know, what can go wrong in your life, like, there's always something that can come out of it, something positive, and you can use it to bless others, and you will bless yourself as well. So that is my story and journey with COVID and lupus. If you guys know anyone who has lupus, or you yourself have lupus, and any tips or suggestions or advice that you have from knowing people who have it, or if you have it yourself, you know, please DM me. Like, I'm still learning about it. You know, I have a few people that follow me, and they give me suggestions about lupus, and I'm so grateful for you know, these suggestions and everything, because again, I'm learning every day about this virus and trying to figure it out and navigate through my life with it. But I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for the constant support, and I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week, and I will talk to you guys next Tuesday. Bye, guys.